Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning everyone. Hello, I'm Syafira and Pratiwi together with RESTITI February and YASMIN di INAYAH. We would like to present our work group assignment about acculturation, assimilation, nativism, and immigration. The title of our movie is Crazy Rich Asian. The main character is Constance Wu as Rachel Chu. Okay, what are immigration, assimilation, and acculturation? First, immigration. Immigration is the act of leaving one country and moving to the other countries which they are not native or citizen, or to settle or reside there, especially as permanent resident or naturalized citizen, or to take up employment as an immigrant worker or temporarily as a foreign worker. And number 2 is assimilation. Assimilation is the fusion of two or more cultures to produce a new culture. And the third is acculturation. Acculturation is the mixing of culture without losing the original culture. And synopsis from the movie. The story tells about Rachel Chu as a Chinese-American economics professor invited by her boyfriend, Nick Young, to visit Singapore because Nick will be his cousin's wedding companion. Nick, who is the son of a conglomerate, also plans to introduce Rachel to his extended family. However, Rachel encounters with Nick's mother, Eleanor, experiences a number of unavoidable differences. Crazy Rich Asian has an interesting premise through various aspects that are presented comprehensively and firmly by exploiting the other side of the global culture of Chinese citizens, especially those living in Asian countries and Western countries such as America. Number 1 is immigration, and this is the scene from the Crazy Rich Asian that representing the immigration. The first scene is the scene when Rachel settled down with her mother, and in this film, it is explained that Rachel Chu and her mother are immigrants from Singapore who have lived in New York and settled there because Rachel's mother ran away from her husband. And the second scene is Nick Young and Rachel went to Singapore to attend his cousin's wedding. Nick planned to stay in Singapore after proposing to Rachel, but there was an incident that was finally resolved. So Nick and Rachel will choose to stay back in New York because Nick has been given the blessing of Eleanor Young to marry Rachel Chu.
2. Assimilation. Scenes of movie Crazy Rich Asian present assimilation meaning. The youth party held on the giant cargo ship was like a Western in lifestyle floating club, and the visitors were here to dress like a typical beach party. That scenes of the film, the characteristic of the original culture have been lost so that a new culture has emerged.
The other scene that reflected the assimilation is, even though this wedding is a Chinese wedding, but they don't wear traditional Chinese clothes. They use a tuxedo and white dress and don't call a monks but priests to bless them. And that is one of the assimilation in the Crazy Rich Asian movies.
3. Acculturation. Acculturation. Name Rachel Chu, the includes acculturation because they still use the Chinese name for the clan, but the first name use a Western name. The room used by Nick Young mother for social gathering, there is a statue of a mole head. That's the part of the acculturation. They don't live their identity that comes from the Chinese ethnicity, even though they embrace Christianity. Nick ordered chicken satay in Malay, and he was fluent in pronouncing. Their food is also not only Chinese food, but there is Western food, it's lobster, and Indonesia with a chicken satay. In this part of the film, including acculturation, because they still private food from the country even though there are a lot of food from other countries. In Chinese family dinners, they have Indian bodyguard, but he does not eliminate his tortured by still wearing traditional Indian clothes. This part of the film includes acculturation because the European-style house is decorated with red lanterns typical of Chinese New Year. European style started from steel wall hanging of Chinese mythological goods and Chinese characters.
Nicknamed the tiger statue in Malay Mr. Harimau, this includes acculturation even though he can speak Malay, but he can still speak Chinese. Rachel's best friend cutting her hair short and dyeing her hair a light color is a very unusual in a Chinese family, because as we can see, most of them have long straight hair and black, which symbolizes their beauty, but Picklin has that look due to her long study in New York. But she didn't forget that she was from a Chinese family and she knew about Chinese culture. Although the wedding venue is held in a Catholic church and has a Western lens, the Chinese element is still displayed. So this part includes acculturation. The next is nativism. Nativism is a return to or emphasis on traditional or local customs. One of the standout things about nativism in Crazy Rich Asian is that Rachel Chu was born in America, but both her parents are Chinese, so she speaks English fluently. But Rachel is also very fluent in Mandarin. Rachel Chu is dating Nick Cheong, who was born in Singapore, and Nick is a Chinese native who is in New York on business. They are both good at using Mandarin and English to communicate, but Rachel Chu is a Native American because she was born in America. She understands more American culture, and Nick Young native Singapore or Chinese because Nick was born there. They are both able to blend American Chinese culture well because of the long stay of the place. And this is movie conclusion. Nick and Rachel's struggle is a moral struggle. Amid the sick of Nick's unscrupulous family, the film Crazy Rich Asian tries to describe the condition of Asian society, which occupies to extreme point. The poorest and the richest, the most outcast and the most honorable, the most marginal and the most respected. The film Crazy Rich Asians shows why most rich people have their own sometimes strange culture and why love prefers conflict with money. This film is wrapped with a good plot and cinematography technique, so you don't get bored following every scene. And the last is our conclusion. We can read Crazy Rich Asian as a reflection of a world view in which equality has been achieved through the establishment of inequality in Asia. This will not be surprising. After all, in other struggles for racial equality in American history, there have also been voices claiming that racial equality would be achieved through members of minority group capable of forming a bourgeoisie that would defend the interests of the group as a whole. Some of the details of this very interesting film are the story set around Chinese culture, which is also acculturated with Western American culture, but there are still many Chinese impressions that are shown, so we find many scenes containing acculturation of Chinese and American culture in the film. For Assimilation, we also find in the wedding ceremony scene, which fully adapts the religious ceremony. I think that's all about our presentation. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.